Alright guys, in my Mecca, we are back at Gold's Gym Venice in Mecca, and we are lucky to have the beautiful Sheena Martin for a few weeks with us. So I said we gotta get some footage, and here we are, you guys. Hi Sheena.
Hi Dan.
So what did you decide to do today? What are we gonna see on camera?
Well, we've done a lot of glute sessions, and I do love training glutes, but I decided today that we would go through some shoulder exercises. Probably in terms of people, asking me about my training, the most asked about body part of mine is probably my shoulders. I would say that my shoulders have developed more so than other body parts, both because of the way I train, but also because of my background in equestrian. So I guess, pulling on a horse is like, that's meant that my shoulders and my back have kind of got a lot of mature developed muscle, more so than say my glutes, because I didn't start doing any glute specific training until I started competing 3 years ago. So that's a little bit to do with, I think, why my shoulders have responded so well to training. But I'm also very particular with my technique and the way I train. It's part of being OCD, I guess. So I want to go through lots of different variations today of all that kind of stuff.
Alright, thanks Sheena, good to have you.
Gone through 2 exercises here. So I see the shoulder press, which is a pretty normal exercise, but I think it's probably one of the most wrongly done exercises of anything. And I'd say that's the biggest thing with shoulder training that I find when training clients, is that they're just not doing things in a particular enough way to get the best out of it. And it's like anything, if you're not making the muscle work as well as you can on both phases of the movement, you're not going to get the results that you want. So I'm always making sure that I'm working slightly in front of my body, so I'm not back behind my body, I'm actually forward slightly on an angle, and that means that you're not using just your traps. You're actually going to use your shoulders. Making sure that you touch down to your shoulders and come right through to the top, and then control on the way down. You'll see, particularly on my last rep, I was going really, really slow on the way down. It's really important that you're not only contracting well when you're executing an exercise, but you're also really resisting, so really controlling on the eccentric phase, not just letting the weight pull you back down or push you back down. The other variation that I did of the shoulder press was an alternate shoulder press with an isometric hold at the bottom. So what you're doing is you're going to have to use a slightly lighter weight so that you can control it, but you're holding yourself in that loaded position and then executing one side at a time. Actually, the hardest work is done on the side that's holding, because you're having to actually use your shoulders to get that control. So that's another really good exercise as a variation on a normal shoulder press. What I've done here is a combination of dumbbell side raise and an alternating dumbbell front raise. I like to do a lot of superset stuff when I'm doing arms and shoulders. As you can tell, I'm puffing. It's good, it gets your heart rate up, because it keeps you going. But also with something like shoulders, you can actually afford to really condense the work, and you're going to get double the bang for your buck. You're going to fatigue faster. As long as you can perform the exercises properly, I think doing supersets is a really good idea. In terms of technique for side raises, I see the same as what I was explaining with the overhead press. A lot of people working back behind their body, so they're like working back here, and they're going to use all their traps rather than actually using their delts. So the way I like to explain it to my clients is they're actually bringing a little bit forward, so they're coming slightly forward, and you're actually better to err on the side of going too far forward than too far back, because you're going to use your shoulders rather than using your traps. In terms of the front raise, is pretty simple technique wise with both of these exercises. One big important thing with technique is to keep your arms almost straight. So I always say keep your arms as straight as you can without them actually being straight. So you've unlocked your elbow joint, which is going to make your muscle do all the work. If you actually lock out your elbow joint, then the joint's going to take away from the work of the muscle. So unlocking the joint, but then having a longer lever, so having the dumbbell further away from the joint that's moving the shoulder, is going to make it harder. So that's one thing that's really important with both of these exercises technique wise, is really extend your arms as long as you can. Cool. Alright, so this is a combination, and you don't have to do this exercise as a combination, you could do the exercise on their own as well. But what I've done is a superset of a leaning dumbbell side raise. So when I'm doing this, you want to have your feet quite close to whatever you're leaning off, and then you want to actually hang dead weight. The whole idea is that you can't swing or use your body because you're hanging dead weight. If you are standing here, and so you're actually standing up on your feet so you can still use your body, then you're kind of defeating the whole point of actually taking yourself into that completely disadvantaged position so that you have to isolate your shoulder. What I was doing when I was executing this exercise, I'm keeping my arm still as straight as I can take it before it's actually locked straight, so my elbow is soft but my arm is long, and I also actually pronated my grip a little bit so that my palm was facing towards you. No, sorry, my palm was facing back behind me. So that way what you're doing is you're putting a lot more emphasis on the side of your shoulder and less on the top. So you can actually do this exercise both ways, but have a play around with your grip as well, because you can actually change the focus quite a little bit in the way it isolates your shoulder just by rotating that dumbbell. And the second exercise I've done here is a standing front raise with the cable. So what you're doing is you're actually facing away from the cable, and then you want to actually grab the cable from between your legs. Looks kind of weird. People always think you're funny when you're getting set up, but it's a really good exercise. What you're doing from there is you're working just up to shoulder height and really controlling on the way down. So with cable, obviously you've got a bit of a different resistance to using a dumbbell. So you actually keep the tension on the muscle the whole way through the range in a different way to using a free weight if you're using a plate or a dumbbell. It's really important to keep your belly braced and stay standing upright. It's tempting to want to lean back. And the next variation on the standing front raise, taking it down to the floor, is what's going to be really good as a kind of a first step if you want to make sure that you're not going to cheat and you are going to stay still. Start with lying on the floor. Alright, so this next superset I've done, and again you don't have to do these as a superset, you can keep the exercise independent if you want to, is a lying cable front raise and a lying upright row. So when you're doing the cable front raise, start with not too much weight. It kind of feels harder than it looks because when you're working with the cable you've got constant tension, so constant resistance right through the movement. So once you're lying down, you are keeping your body obviously still, you can't move much from here, keeping your shoulders down away from your ears and then coming up so that you're in line with your shoulders. So you don't need to go way up here. This is actually the hardest part right here. So you want to come right to there, which is the toughest bit, and then control, really resist nice and slowly on the way down. With the lying upright row, again, like an upright row is a great exercise. A lot of people know how to do it. By taking it down to the floor, you can actually go quite a lot heavier, and you feel really intense isolation. I haven't done this one in a while, and man, it burnt. You can actually feel really intense isolation because you're lying down. You cannot move. So all of the work is going to be in your shoulders. So you can afford to go a little bit heavier on this one. You're going to lie down for both of these exercises. I like to plant my foot against something there, helps to keep you nice and still. You're lying down, make sure that your shoulders stay down away from your ears. So the only way that you can really cheat with both of these is to do this. Okay, so you're actually using your traps, but you want to keep your shoulders down, your neck relaxed, and leading with your elbows. You don't need to come up too high. You're coming up to sort of almost collarbone, so slightly above your bust, and controlling on the way down. The important part is that your elbows are always leading the movement, just as they would if you were standing up. Your elbows are the highest part, and really control again on the way down. Alright, this exercise I've done here is a seated rear delt fly, so just using dumbbells. I keep my feet together, try and keep my back flat and sit forward so that I'm bringing my chest down towards my knees. From there I'm opening back on an angle The biggest thing I would say with this one is getting that angle right. So you're not lifting your arms up and you're not taking your arms behind you, but you're going kind of halfway in between. Okay, so you're coming back on an angle, keeping your arms almost straight, but without locking the elbows, so that you're actually, you want to feel like you are using the back of your shoulder to press your arm back.
I think Stanimal's trying to get some tips. Yeah. Get your tip until you can get them, Stanimal. You see? That's a third guy who's telling you that about this exercise.
Two kind of little finisher, what I call the finisher exercises that I'm going to share with you. The first one that I've done is a full circle side raise. So you're coming all the way through to the top, all the way down to the bottom. Again, making sure that you're working in that plane slightly in front of your body, so you're not working back behind your body. This is particularly important when you're above your head, because if you are here, you are putting all of the load in your back, and a lot of females have kind of not super strong core, and a lot of flexibility through their spine, which can lead to real problems with lower back pain if you don't control it. So that's really important. Keep it at the top so that it's slightly in front. So you should be able to actually like see it in your peripheral vision, and then you know you're working in a safe range. What I would like to do often with this type of exercise is like do a run the rack. So you'll start with one weight and do as many as you can until you fail, drop down one weight and keep going. And I would often use that to finish off my shoulder training. So I'm ending up doing, you know, 60 reps or so, because I'm doing as many as I can with each weight until I get right down to some pitiful little weight that actually feels really heavy by the time you get down there. Alright, the second of my favourite little finishing exercises is one that I call a 6-leg combination. So you're going to need quite a light weight for this, and you're going to have to be very particular with your technique as well. What you're doing is you are coming from the side, up to the side, straight through to the front, above your head, and then you're going back the same way in reverse. It's important that you're getting to shoulder height here, to shoulder height here, slightly in front of your head here. So like I was saying with the other exercise, you're not going back behind and you're not arching your back, keeping that core control and stopping in a safe range, and then you're coming back to the bottom. Again, this is one that you can do like a run the rack, so you can start with a certain weight, do as many reps as you can, and then drop down. With this one, you really can't start with much weight at all. It's very hard to control it, and I just like to do this until I fail, and then sometimes press up, so I'm really dead.